Today, we're very happy to have Jill Sweatman, known as the Brain Whisperer, from Sydney, Australia. She is a neuroscience communicator who works in learning and development. And along with Jill, we have Dr. Patrick Quaid. Dr. Quaid is an optometrist at the View Cubed Vision Therapy Clinics in Guelph and North York, Ontario. He's the author of Learning to See, Seeing to Learn, Vision, Learning, and Behavior in Children. Welcome, both of you.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you very much. Wonderful to be here.
Well, let's talk about technology and technology in the classroom. Like everything in life, there can be good and bad from something. The technology can be a blessing and it can be a curse. Jill, why don't you share some of the things that you've observed when it comes to technology, learning, and the classroom?
Grant, I'd love to. I think technology is extraordinary with what it provides with information instantly for children and for adults as well. What always concerns me, though, is that the power of learning should not ever be diluted. I think we've been seduced by thinking that we have to put technology into every single lesson, that we have to have the latest and the greatest. Whereas, in fact, I work very solidly with children, and I like to think that in the tutoring work that I do, the magic comes from that one-on-one. No, nothing replaces a wonderful teacher, a teacher that is inspiring and sparks a curiosity in a child. And that can't necessarily be got just from, a YouTube or, a game or something that's always where the child is focused on a screen instead of focused on the face to match what they're hearing to the spatial expressions, and then being asked to contribute themselves. So that interaction is critical in a classroom and for children to be asking questions. So technology has its place, and I would love to think that we could get this extraordinary balance in time where we take the best of what technology can offer as well as integrating that with the one-on-one. But I would never ever say that could replace the value of what we have today with merely just something on a screen that didn't have the personal content. Patrick, what do you think about that? What are you noticing?
Well, I think in the exam room, what I'm noticing, I mean, first of all, technology is great. We're sitting here having a conversation in 3 different parts of the world. So technology has its uses, right? But I think what I'm seeing a lot in the clinic, and there's actually been some papers that have shown this as well, is, when you're sitting in front of a computer and your eyes are converged for long periods of time on a computer, and you're attending to your central vision, not your peripheral vision, so you're not outside walking around, the visual system, there's an old saying, nerves that fire together wire together, right? If your visual system gets so used to processing centrally and up close, it actually, it starts to ignore the periphery. And you start to then get into aspects of, attention in a classroom, for example. How well am I able to process what's going on around me? So, for example, I could be looking straight ahead at the teacher, something moves in my periphery, and if I'm not confident with my peripheral awareness, I might disengage from the teacher to look over here to check it out, rather than, hey, I see something moving over here. I know it's my friend, little Johnny, and he's moving his arm. I don't need to disengage from the teacher. I can keep fixating on the teacher. So I think there is an element of attention, if you like, there. I also think that there's been some papers published in the Journal of Health Economics or Educational Research in Europe, which showed that if you actually have the same material on a computer screen versus paper, and you actually have better comprehension from paper. And it's been interesting, even going back to my PhD days and my postdoctorate, I always used to, even though I could look at it on the screen, I could look at a research paper as a PDF, I always felt more comfortable printing it out, underlining it, going through it, making notes on the side, going back, percolating on it. And I think some of that nuance is lost when you're dealing with stuff from a computer screen. And I really concur with Jill as well when she talks about, being there in person in the vision therapy room. Even though we do some of our vision therapy remotely through a Zoom type platform, there's certain things that we can only do in person, right? So, for example, if I can teach someone to cross their eyes using a computer program on a screen, but to really appreciate how your eyes move. I mean, for example, if I look at the camera right now and I cross my eyes, so I'm going to make Jill double. I see 2 of her right now. I'm going to look at her left image and I'm going to make her left image move. Okay. I'm going to bring it back, hold it, look at the other image, and now I'm going to make the other image move. So I have a proprioceptive feeling of my eyes that I've developed by appreciating where things are in real physical space. So, without getting too mathy, there's your y-axis, your x-axis, but this is your z-axis. It's your physical space in front of you. And that's not necessarily something you can teach on a computer screen. It's a two-dimensional screen. Now, you might get things like virtual reality and augmented reality, and that may open up the door in that way. But to your point, Jill, I don't think you can replace real physical space from a visual standpoint. Then there's the interpersonal, there's body language, there's all that other stuff that comes into play. But purely from an optometric standpoint, I'm a big fan of free space.
Mm-hmm. That's extraordinary. Gosh, I learned there. Wow. It's
Can't make my eyes do that.
That's from years of doing vision therapy. But you know what? The average person who has an intact visual system can be shown how to do that relatively quickly. But if you have an eye teaming problem, that exercise is going to be very hard to do. But that's kind of almost like the version of doing Tai Chi for the visual system, very slow, deliberate movements. And that's probably a bad analogy, but you're making very slow, deliberate movements. And you want to be able to feel what each eye is doing. So, I mean, being able to tell when one eye is converged and one eye is not, that's really important, because some of these kids on these computer screens, when they're literally sitting there for hours. Actually, I had a patient yesterday in clinic who said, I'm on my computer screen. When I get up to walk around, it literally takes about a half an hour for my eyes to feel like they're relaxed outwards.
Yeah.
Right. So we know these screens are having an impact on people.
We sure do. And when I work with young people who have been or are heavy gamers, one of the things that breaks my heart more than anything is that I notice that they kind of have a stare. Their eyes are without expression, and they just seem to be looking into the distance and not really connecting with you. But in another context, it's Marianne Wolfe, the neuroscientist who wrote a wonderful book called Read to Come Home. And she talks about the fact that reading on a screen constantly changes the way you read. And you're right, Patrick, certainly in terms of comprehension, you cannot replace really the written word in a physical book. But she notes that not only young people and adults too, reluctant to read the full amount of any novel. I'm arguing with my senior students and my university students to actually read the paper and read the novel. They think a synopsis is going to see them through a major exam. But what we're noticing is that the way people read on a screen is different. They're not reading left to right. They're scanning, they're picking up words. And unfortunately, digital reading rewards for distraction. It doesn't reward for focus. So, as someone who's on the screen a lot, I have to say I've noticed my own focus change. And I complement that by purchasing as many physical books as I can, because I know that the quality of my reading, and Patrick, to your point earlier, I annotate everything, because most of the books I read because I love language, but also read to learn. So I want to be able to go back over it. There's a lot to be said for that. And a lot of children today are not developing deep reading. Deep reading, the reading that really matters, the information that comes behind the words, through the words, under the words, and being able to think about what it is that they're reading.
Well, this has been great. Thank you for a great conversation on this important topic, and so many more things that we can talk about. We've been joined today by Jill Sweatman, the brain whisperer. You can visit her website, learn many more things, lots of good resources there for you to enjoy and to learn. And also Dr. Patrick Quaid, who's the author of Learning to See, Seeing to Learn, Vision, Learning, and Behavior in Children. Thank you both for making it an interesting conversation.
Thanks for having us.